Welcome to Latte with a Lawyer, a podcast dedicated to bringing you the stories of some of America's most successful lawyers, figuring out what makes them tick, how they creatively solve problems, and how others, aspiring to be them, can follow in their footsteps.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Latte with a Lawyer. I'm your host, Jonathan Brickman, and this morning, from the state of Florida, we have Chris Vernon from Vernon Litigation Group. Good morning.
Good morning, Jonathan. How you doing?
Good, excellent. I see you got sunshine behind you too, which I do. We're lucky we live in South Florida.
Beautiful day today.
Oh yeah, it's gorgeous. In fact, I keep trying to get out and play some golf. You're probably a golfer.
I am a horrible golfer.
Are you?
Yeah.
But you still try?
What's that?
But you still try?
No, I haven't tried in the last few years. For a while there, I was trying, but maybe I'll get back to it.
All right.
My dad told me when I was a young lawyer, he said, if you're a really good golfer, you're probably not that good of an attorney. So that gave me a little bit of comfort.
It's funny that you said that because it was several months now that we had a meeting with John Morgan & Morgan. And he basically said that. He said, when I talk to you, I ask him what their golf game is. And if they're a scratch golfer, I stay away from them. Meaning, they spend a lot of time on the golf course and they're not working as much.
Yeah.
I thought
that's exactly what my dad was trying to say to me.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I just go on the weekends. I try to play one day a week if I can.
That's great to have something to get away.
It is fun. So anyway, I see you drinking a cup of coffee, Latte with a Lawyer. What's your morning juice, your jet fuel?
It's, I have a love-hate relationship with coffee. So I try to get off of it because I know it's not healthy drinking too much. And I tend to drink too much when I drink it. But because this is a special occasion, I'm doing my first podcast. I got my favorite drink. It's cafe con leche.
That's the strong stuff, right?
It's Cuban espresso, so it's strong, but it's chock full of a lot of milk and sugar. So
yeah,
it's more like liquid candy, really.
Got it.
I love it. And
I
think if you want to take it one step further, there's a cortadito, which is similar but even stronger.
Okay. I mean, every ethnicity's got their version of that cafe au lait, cafe leche, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. We just came back from we took a trip to Japan for 10 days, which was amazing.
I've never been to the Far East. That I would love to do that.
Oh man, you have to go. It's the opposite of the United States when you go to Japan. I mean, monolithic society. People line up, they don't break line. They're quiet on the trains. I mean, it's just amazing how different it is.
Yeah, it's truly a different culture because going to Europe is different and awesome, but you're still coming from sort of the same culture. And in the Far East, it is a different culture, and I've never really experienced that.
Yeah, totally different. Yeah, we're worth a trip just to be an observer of it, whether you like it or not. To see the way another part of the world operates is really interesting. So anyway, so let's talk about your practice, your law practice. Tell everybody what you do and how you spend your time.
Well, sometimes it's easier to say what we don't do, but I'll start with what we do. We do nothing but litigation. We do not do any transactional work. And within that world, we don't do any family law or criminal defense or personal injury. We are really financial litigators. That's a term we coined a while back just to sort of describe the totality of what we do. And it's just basically what I call, if you're fighting over money,
yep,
in the business world, the investment world, the insurance world, call us. If you want to do a real estate closing or an estate plan or you have a personal injury matter, we're not your folks. Although I've been here for 30 years, so I have a pretty good network to refer things to. But we're very focused on financial litigation, which really grew out of representing investors around the country. That was sort of the genesis of the firm.
People that were taking advantage of whatever the word is, Bernie Madoffs of the world, like those kind of investors.
Exactly. I started out doing securities class actions out of law school, and then it evolved into representing individuals and groups of investors against investment professionals and investment firms all over the country who were either incompetent or, like Bernie Madoff, very unethical.
Got it, got it. Well, there's a lot of that in South Florida. I know. One of the businesses I was involved with. We sold to the sell side of Wall Street, and I had a lot of clients in South Florida that unfortunately got involved with unethical behavior.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
it's terrible. There's a lot of it in Florida.
yeah,
It's true. You're dead on with that.
right. So yeah, and broker. I mean, it's kind of like being a doctor. I mean, it's a tough position to be in as an investment advisor anyway, right? Because you're making decisions, and it's a very difficult game, and you got unhappy clients. You're subject to suit, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and they have duties, and we turn down about 90% of the cases we look at, but
Okay.
probably 40% of the ones we turn down, there's wrongdoing, but it's just not. It doesn't make sense for the client to pursue it either because the person who ripped them off is unable. You can't collect from them,
Hmm.
or it's too small and it just doesn't make financial sense. But people are getting taken advantage of all over the country and all over the world because
Yes.
the competence level in that industry is massively different in terms of the breadth of competence or incompetence compared to doctors, lawyers, or CPAs. I give a lot of speeches, and when I
Yeah.
talk about that, I talk about how, well, I use myself as an example. To get my law degree, I did 4 years undergrad at Florida State. I did 3 years law school, Stetson, and then I took a multi-day test, which is pretty brutal. And then I had to pass a FBI background check, and then I had to take a separate ethics test, and that took about 7 years.
Yep.
And then about 10 years ago, I took a 2-day crash course in Tampa, Florida, and got up on the third day and took my test to become an investment professional. So I jokingly say it took me 7 years to become a lawyer and 3 days to become an investment professional. That shows you the difference. Now, I got a lot of buddies who are really, really well qualified
Yeah.
to manage your money, super well qualified, but it's super hard to tell for a retail investor to tell the difference between them and the guy who was selling high end cars 3 weeks ago. It's hard for the investor to tell the difference.
Yeah. But
It's so
there,
important.
it is hard. And and listen, I've been I mean, I feel like I was a victim myself of a pretty reputable investment advisor that came through Fidelity. I mean, without going into the details, I think they misrepresented an investment vehicle
Yeah,
I was
and,
part
and
of.
yeah, and almost everybody I talk to goes, "Oh, I wish I'd met you 10 years ago." They've got a story.
Yep. So you're right. And anyway, are you still doing that kind of work? Is that still a big part
Oh
of your
yeah,
practice? Okay.
it is. It's a big part of our practice, but as we grew from one or two lawyers, we're still small, but we're 5 litigators in Naples for a town that size. That's a pretty good set of litigators.
Yep.
And the reality is, comparing this to a personal injury practice, which there's a lot of personal injury work out there. The reality is, if I'm really good about just taking strong cases and not just taking anything that comes in
Sure.
the door, there's not that much good work out there for 5 lawyers. Unless I just went on a marketing spree on the internet and went
Yeah.
crazy and maybe collected a bunch. But so we've sort of evolved from the just doing the investment side to doing a lot of business litigation, a lot of probate litigation, because we try to carry a small caseload, and I'm sure it hurts our profits,
Sure.
but we try to really focus whatever we focus in on, try to be really good at it. And if I were just doing investment litigation with 5 attorneys, my fear is I'd be taking some marginal cases, and I just don't want to do that. It's
I see.
not good for the firm, not good for the client, not good for the industry to be bringing bogus cases. And as we know, there's some wonderful lawyers out there, but there's also some folks who'll file anything if they've got the willing client. And so we try to stay away from that.
I see. I see. And do you get paid on is it billable hours or contingency or a little of both?
It's both.
Okay.
We do hybrid arrangements, we do pure contingencies, we do pure hourly. We really try not to be cookie cutter, but a lot of these smaller, what we traditionally think of as, I call them FINRA arbitration cases,
Yeah.
where the industry where your broker sells you, like you kind of
Yep.
reference, sells you a really bad product. Those typically we will do on contingent fee.
I see. Okay. Got it. But when you say you're particular, I mean, so high value cases, is it, or complicated? How do you define, sort of the interesting cases that you'll take?
I guess the first thing I look for is there's wrongdoing. I just did tell a war story 10 years ago, probably. I was driving, headed, north in Florida. My my intake paralegal calls me up and says, "Hey, a guy just lost $1 million." And I'm like, "Okay, do you want to call him or do you want to wait till you get back to the office?" I said, "No, I'm gonna call him right now. That's potentially a good case for our firm."
Okay.
And so we get on the phone and he's very aggressive and he says to me, I said, "Well, tell me what happened." And he said, I already told your paralegal I lost $1 million. And I said, "Yeah, but tell me tell me about the case." "Well, I already did. This, blank, blank, blank broker lost me $1 million." I said, "Okay, let me be more, maybe I'm not being clear. What did you think he did wrong?" He
Right.
said, "I just told you," and his volume of his voice is going up. "I just told you he lost me $1 million." And I said, "I understand, sir, but markets go up, markets go down. Just because you lost $1 million does not mean malpractice was committed by your investment
Right.
professional."
Right.
He hung up the phone. So, you know, the point is, your question, I think, is how do we figure out a case,
Yeah.
whether we want it or not, a complicated case or a simple case. We first look, is there liability? We don't
Mm.
treat it. I mean, obviously damages are super important, but before we get to even thinking about damages, we try to figure out if this portfolio was managed by a really good investment professional,
Mm.
how would it have performed? And how did this perform? I shouldn't say perform, but what's it made up of? What's it look like? And we try to determine, we use the term, it's not really used much in the securities industry, but we use the term malpractice. So
Okay.
do we think they committed malpractice? And then if we do think they can, I mean, that's the end of the inquiry if we don't think there's malpractice. If there is malpractice, then we look at what the damages we think we might be able to recover are. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times there may be serious liability, but because the markets went up and the bad guy or the incompetent guy got lucky, there may be very little in the way of damages. I mean, I've seen a lot of incompetent investment professionals, but 100%. I remember suing a financial professional probably 10 or 20 times a decade ago, and he put everything in technology. As long as technology is going up, he's the smartest guy in the room. And even
Right.
though I think that's a gross over concentration and wrong, there's really no damages unless and until I just tell people run away while you still can.
But that's not malpractice, though, right? That's different. That's not malpractice because somebody says we're going all in on high tech or FANG stocks. That's
Oh
not,
yeah, no, it very much can be. Very much can
even
be.
if that, but if that's disclosed up front, what the strategy is going to be, and
Well,
there's an
yeah,
understanding.
I think
Yeah.
it still can be, and I'll tell you
Really.
why. Because I, if you watch golf, we're talking about golf, I
Yeah.
think before we started, or maybe after we started, but
Yeah.
um, if you watch the TV and watch TV golf or watch golf on TV, you see these ads for these big firms saying, "Trust us, trust us,
Sure.
trust us," and presenting themselves as a level of a professional, like I say, CPA, lawyer, doctor. So if you're going to present that way, you have a duty more than just disclose, "I'm going to do a really crappy job for you," or "I'm going to do something stupid with your money, but I'm disclosing it, so I'm okay, and you can't sue me." I don't think a doctor can get away with that, a CPA or a lawyer can get away with that, and I'm not going to let an investment professional get away with that. So if, for example, you want to take 10% of your money at your age, given the fact you're still working, and say, "I really believe in tech and I don't want to put it in ARC. I got a local guy who's a superstar, I think, in tech, and I want to put 10% of my money in there." And you tell him that, and he says, "Okay," and he has you sign the documentation, understanding he's high risk, that is probably not malpractice.
Right.
But, but if a retired couple with limited funds or should be primarily fixed income investors go to a seminar that he presents and he says, listen, this is high risk, but trust me, I'm really good at this. Put all of your money in tech. I think that's malpractice. So it's very, very fact specific.
But the typical investment, I mean, we're probably going down a rabbit hole here, but
Okay.
I mean, I've been through this process, right? They ask you your risk tolerance, and they come up with an asset allocation plan, right, based on your risk profile. So, typically whatever the split is, 40-60 bonds and stocks, depending on your age. And then they decide, well, I'll ignore that and I'm going to put 100% in FANG. Sure, that's malpractice. But if somebody says, I'm an aggressive investor, which I happen to be, and I want to be 100% equity, and that's what they do, then I'm okay with that. I'm willing to accept that risk. If they do something that's different than what we agreed to, sure, that's malpractice.
Well, I think the world I live in, again, to use the term, very fact specific, because if you take those exact facts,
and
you've got a couple of 70-year-old retirees who say, I want to, the husband used to, he likes taking risk or whatever, but he's not very knowledgeable in the stock market, and he says, yeah, I want to take some risk. I would argue, depending on the facts, is it appropriate to allow them to do that? And if they really want to do that, what are you getting paid to do? Are you getting paid to advise them or just do what they tell you they want to do? So if you're a discount broker and you open up an account, even if they do the risk tolerance analysis or whatever, that's different than somebody says, come to me, I'll manage your money, you'll pay me a management fee, I'll do what's best for you. I've got 20 years in the business, and goes down that, use the term rabbit hole. And even if they get the client to sign, you understand you're taking risk. That, to me, that is malpractice. They shouldn't be doing, the friends that I have are in the business. If retirees who shouldn't be taking that kind of risk with their money come to them, they go, I'm not your guy. I'm not your lady. Go to somebody else.
Okay. All right.
That's not how I do business. Okay. But you're right about the asset allocation and the risk analysis. In fact, we're going off on a tangent, but I'm in the process of writing a book called Investor Lifeguard. And I suggest going through the exact process, and I've simplified it, of, where's your money invested, what's your net worth, blah, blah, blah. And I suggest in the book that you do it yourself, because there are so many charlatans out there in the business that will run through that analysis with you. But no matter what you write down, the magical answer is, oh, you need equity index annuities, or you need variable annuities. And so it's almost like, what if say a wolf in sheep's clothing. They're pretending to go through this analysis, but they've got the same answer for everything. And it's whatever they can make the most commissions off of.
Right. No, I'm a believer. It's funny. Most people completely outsource investment advice to somebody. They don't even think about it, which is crazy. When you should pay a lot of attention to that.
Yeah, one of my old bosses said most people spend more time picking out a toaster than they do their investment professional.
It's so true.
And so often they pick their investment professional by whoever gave them a steak dinner, whoever's got the best golf game, whoever's got the best pickleball game, or whoever's got the coolest radio or TV show on Saturday morning.
Right.
And those are not good indicia of who you should be working with.
No, absolutely not. So, all right. Interesting. I mean, yeah, I like investing, but I don't want to talk too much about that. Maybe another time. So why'd you become a lawyer? I was reading your background. I know you thought about going on Wall Street. Why'd you become a lawyer?
Yeah, well, I don't mean to drag it back into investments, but that is my passion. So yeah, I went and I got some good interviews on Wall Street. I went to Florida State. I was a business major, got some good interviews on Wall Street, but didn't get a job offer. And one of the guys told me, just, in classic New York style, he said, listen, you do not have an MBA, you do not have a law degree, you did not go to an Ivy League school. You're the only person that I've interviewed who doesn't have at least one of those credentials. You didn't go to West Point. You're not going to get the job you want. You need to go back home and get yourself an MBA or law degree. And so I picked law degree instead of an MBA, signed up for law school. And then I kind of realized, and it just so happened, I'm at the age when, I don't know whether you remember, but you remember the SEC really went hard after a lot of these Wall Streeters, and that old movie Wall Street came out, and it really, what's that?
Stratton Oakmont.
Well, that's the Wolf of Wall Street, same concept, but
Yeah,
it really exposed how unethical
oh yeah,
a lot of practices were on Wall Street and how they were abusing investors. So all of a sudden my eyes were opened. I'm in the middle of law school and I'm realizing I love investments in the investment industry, but I don't want to be part of something that's corrupt. So that led me to becoming a securities lawyer.
okay, so that's your passion. So I understand. It makes sense to me why you.
It was a really weird path to get to be a lawyer. I didn't really intend to ever be a lawyer. I want to be a businessman.
Ah, interesting. Okay, but
Sometimes I regret it.
yeah. Well, I mean, listen, you are a businessman. I mean, you have your own law firm. That's a business.
Yeah, true.
Right?
True. That's true.
And it's interesting because that is now like sort of people paying a lot of attention to that, where, years ago, if you were a doctor or lawyer, you were more of a practitioner. You didn't think of it as a business, right? But I mean, I know that's changing, and there's a lot of advice and consulting around how to run your practice like a business now.
Yeah, and notoriously, with exceptions, you got guys like John Morgan, who are brilliant business people, but for the most part, lawyers are not great business people.
Right.
They're just not. And
No,
it's kind of like doctors typically are not. It's just not what they studied in school.
Yeah, I mean, well, today they're better. My dad was a doctor, and I watched him, and trust me, he was not a good businessman. He was terrible.
But a great doctor.
He was a good doctor, but lousy businessman.
But you got to keep the door. You got to make enough money to keep the doors open so you can keep helping people. That's my concept.
Yes, for sure. So, I mean, is there any other lawyers in your family? Was there any influence for you to? No. Okay.
No. I'd say, my family personality, if you will, was, before my brother and I, nobody had a college degree. And I grew up in a small town in Florida. And, I guess if you had to describe my genetics, or it's sort of rebellious, not a big rule follower, but really passionate about trying to help the little guy. And
Yeah.
that's kind of why I love what I do. It's because that's kind of the build of the firm, if you will.
I see. What'd your parents do?
My dad sold insurance,
Okay.
and my mom was a homemaker.
All right. Got it.
And my dad I watched him how he sold, and we jokingly say everybody's in sales, but he was the most low key salesman I'd ever seen. He was never trying to close anybody, and he was genuinely focused on helping people, whether they would become a client or not. I saw him so many times help people who, were just down and out, and he'd do it in a way that wouldn't draw attention to himself. He was a very fascinating man. And so that was a great influence on me. And he didn't like rules. He did not like being told what to do. So
yeah, I can identify with that. So I appreciate that.
Like, I'm going to do the right thing. I just don't want somebody telling me to do the right thing.
Right. I totally appreciate that mentality. And by the way, what you're describing is, not selling is really the right way to sell. In fact, that's how modern sales methodology talks about that. They talk about the buying process as opposed to the sales process now, because it's reversed if you're really good at it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So your dad was
and if you're really trying to help people, you're genuinely trying to help people, then you feel good about the way you're doing business.
Yes. So your dad was way ahead of his time. Way ahead of his time.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So you had a good role model there. As a lifelong salesperson, I appreciate that very much, because most people just get on the phone and just talk and try to push your product.
And to me, it's, as a lawyer, obviously I'm trained to read people. We all are in some form or another, but you can see them coming a mile away, and all they're looking for is the close. And that's why I do enjoy going after some of these financial professionals that are really just salespeople.
Yes.
They're just selling high commission products as fast and hard as they can. And that really bothers me.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, give me an example of like other types of work. I know you mentioned a real estate transaction. What other kinds of work do you get involved with?
Construction litigation is picking up. Probate litigation's pretty busy now. Business, I call them business divorces, and that's where, somebody has a successful, or a couple of people have a successful business, and then they decide that they can't get along, and
Yeah.
trying to help people work through those things. Any type of business litigation, trust litigation. We do represent some financial advisors, as long as they're fighting with their company and not an investor. If they're fighting with an investor, we will not represent them. We refer that out. So, and I'm trying to think of what else we do. Oh, I almost forgot. I mean, the new thing we've really focused on in the last 5 years, and I can't say, since this is probably be listened to by lawyers, I
Yeah.
can't say we've made much money doing it, but we've really built a practice that I think will be good for us in the future, and we're enjoying doing, because there's so much fraud, and that is crypto, cyber,
Ah,
any cyber litigation.
okay.
And the theory on that is, the Wayne Gretzky, the hockey player, don't go to where the puck is, go where it's going to be.
Yep.
And I think, as we all do, everything's going to go cyber, 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 cyber. So we've, we give speeches on that, and candidly, like I said, we're not making a lot of money off of that,
Mm,
but that's okay, because we're getting really good at it, and we're helping people. And so we think it will become, there will be a point in time, as a commercial litigator or business litigator, you better be good at cyber or you're going to have problems.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it
So we
sounds like a
take
lot of the
all
work
that
you do,
together.
sounds like a lot of the stuff you're doing is related to probably the population there, right? Older, retirement, high net worth population there. When you talk about, consumer protection, trust, right? Probate, is it a lot related to the population there?
That's how it started. I
Yeah.
think it's now really expanded. We represent a lot of business owners,
Okay.
but it's still, we have David versus Goliath. I mean, my favorite story ever is David versus Goliath, as written by Malcolm Gladwell. I'm sure
Yeah. Yeah.
it's just a great story, and that's our view. So even if we're representing a, multi-million dollar local mid-sized business, we're often going up against an international conglomerate. So we're still the little guy, even though you have to redefine what the little guy is in Naples, Florida, just like you said. There's
Right.
a lot of money here, and
Yep.
the little guy may be worth $20 million going up against $1 billion company, or $1 billion investment firm, or trust company, or something like that. But
Got it.
yeah, it definitely, the genesis, in fact, when I got out of law school and I knew that I wanted to do this investment stuff, I really felt like I needed to be, in a sort of a beach town, where a lot of retirees are, because those are the people who need my help. And it just so happens those places are usually great places to live. So
Right.
it's kind of lucky in that sense.
Yeah. 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 By the way, Malcolm Gladwell, I've read every one of his books. I love him. He's great.
He's my favorite writer.
That's so funny. I've read every one.
Yep. I
So
think I've read everyone. I read Blink, Outliers, Talking to Strangers. I didn't think that was his best book. David versus Goliath, What the Dog Saw, with the
yep.
short stories. So I'm right there with you. I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah. No, he's terrific.
and he just causes you to look at things differently. And we sort of have the mentality that we're almost like trying to become almost like a teaching hospital here at the firm, because, I don't want to be the 70-year-old guy trying cases. I want to have just take all the knowledge I have from experience that they can't get off of Westlaw, and I want to pour it into these younger folks. And one of the things that I think all younger lawyers do is they think they live in this box. They get a demand letter, somebody threatening to sue their client, and they want to live within that. We just had a case, it's a little teeny case. I just came in the door yesterday, and the attorney on the other side said, you are liable because of this, and therefore you owe this.
hmm,
And they're like, oh my goodness, you're right, they do owe, and we need to pay him. Do we pay him this? I go, wait a minute, yeah, maybe they've got some arguments on the liability side, but on the damages, let's there's a lot of holes with their theory. Let's look at, I'm rambling here, but it's kind of like, one thing I say to them is, say, okay, if you were going to win this case, how would you win it? And that prevents them from saying what's wrong with the case. Now, I think as a trial lawyer, you better know every flaw in your case. And I have a difficult time representing clients who refuse to see the weaknesses in their case because they're going to get blindsided at trial. So I very much want to build my case understanding the hurdles I have to overcome. But there has to be that point where you have to take your hat off of following the rules and be super creative and say, okay, if I were to win this case, how would I win it? And then all of a sudden you have, I mean, people are in and out offices. We have, basically, like I said, 5 lawyers. I mean, people are running in and out, and it's disruptive. But if you have an idea, let's share it and come up with something creative. And what's the best idea in the room?
Oh, great. So you have a good culture. You guys collaborate a lot.
Yeah, we have a good culture.
Yeah, that's excellent. Now, I've often heard lawyers say that I start backwards. I start from the back and go backwards to figure out how I'm going to approach the cases, which just sounds like what you're saying too. How do you, I mean, so most of so you go to court and do jury trials often.
We don't, the reality is commercial litigation. If you're a commercial litigator, you don't actually go to trial that much.
Okay.
And because it's so darn expensive for the client and the judge, at least in this area, and I think in Delray too, is probably around the country at this point, they really try to push folks into mediation, into non-binding arbitration, and wherever they can push them, so you don't end up, because it's just, everything to me is a cost benefit analysis in terms of representing my clients. And a lot of these clients at this point in the courtroom, in the jury trial system, are business people. And so they're getting pulled away from their business. They're getting charged a bunch of money. There's no insurance to cover that charge. And it can get so expensive that, you rarely have jury trials if you're a true commercial litigator. Now, we do have them, and I purposely try to hire people with a lot of trial experience so that they have that tool in their toolbox if needed.
Okay.
But oftentimes, if I can get a good settlement, if I can get enough momentum in the case and get the other side to start to doubt their position, and then I can get a good settlement for my client, that's often better than a jury trial. Now, that being said, I think we have 4 potential jury trials scheduled for the next 6 months.
Okay.
And so we might be in, I may 6 months from now call you up and say, yeah, we had 2 jury trials in the last 6 months. But on average, commercial litigators don't go to jury trial that much.
Yeah, I got it. But you have to be willing to push to that so they know that I need to settle for something reasonable. Otherwise, we're going to the courtroom.
Oh, there's no question that to me, if you're going to be a good negotiator, you in litigation, you need to assume and be comfortable that you are going to trial, and that gives you the power, as my grandfather used to say, if you're not willing to walk away, you ain't negotiating.
Right.
And I even preach around here. I said, I don't care how good you are at sales, you need to genuinely be ready for trial when you get into negotiation, because I can sense it a miles away when the attorney on the other side is negotiating with me, and I can tell they're not ready. They're not ready for the alternative. If we don't settle, they're not ready. And that weakens their ability to negotiate. So I tell people, you not only have to mentally be able to walk away, but you have to be mentally or positioned in such a way that you're ready for the alternative.
Yeah, absolutely.
Comfortable with the alternative. He who wants it the most loses, they say.
Yeah. No, I've had this discussion with other attorneys, and I said, well, you probably go to trial. I said, no, it's actually the opposite, because the other side knows that I will go to trial, so they settle for a reasonable amount because they know that I will go to trial. So it's right. So you have to do that in order to be able to settle for reasonable.
Whoever said that is 110% correct. That is exactly right. The best way to settle a case is to get ready to try it and show them that you're not afraid.
Right. So it's interesting. I've learned a lot. As I said, I'm not an attorney, but I've talked to hundreds of you guys, and I'm getting educated through the conversation. So I appreciate it. So just to round it off here, this has been an interesting discussion for sure. what do you want to leave with the audience about your firm? Like just final thoughts and the best way to connect with you.
Oh, well, I tell you, my number one thought, I'm looking for an experienced trial attorney to join this culture who wants to do things the way we're doing them. And I think we're a little bit, as you said, my dad was a little bit at the head of the curve in trying to create a firm that may not be the most profitable firm, but is a firm where you really enjoy working and you love your craft. And there's not any rules that we don't think, we should try to strip away all the rules that don't negatively impact the client and focus on systems and culture and style in such a way that we do help the client. And part of that, I mean, I probably couldn't quote them to you, but we have 6 house rules. One is set reasonable expectations and then exceed them. One is create a culture where valued team members want to work, play to win, don't lose track of the objective of winning, do what you say you will do. And there's a couple more. I mean, this is sort of, these are the rules we live by. And so I'd love my sales pitch, if you will, is if you're listening to this and you're a lawyer with trial experience and you think you might want to be in this culture and might want to take a leadership role in this culture, because I'm getting older and I'm thinking about playing more golf.
Yeah.
And so love to have you, reach out to us. We got an ad right now we just hired a paralegal. We're looking for a seasoned trial lawyer. And by seasoned, I mean somebody who's been, out of school maybe 10 or 20 years, who's ready to take it to the next level.
Excellent. Good stuff. No, I like it. Do you have your core values written down?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I definitely have them written down.
But I mean, for the group, because we did that as part of a business years ago. It's very powerful when you actually write them down and share it and then try to live it.
Oh, they're definitely written down. I've reviewed them with everybody. The problem is I don't review them enough. And we eventually we moved not too long ago and we never got to really decorate the new place. And so when we go through that, we're going to probably put up a big, poster on the wall or
good.
framed with the 6 house rules. I mean, Excellent. It started out at 10 rules and we said, let's just strip this down. This is what we live by. And be in a place where the clients can see them, and everybody can
Excellent.
know everybody. So we're not there yet, but we're moving in that direction because you're right.
That's
something we need to do.
Excellent. Good stuff. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure for everybody. Chris Vernon with Vernon Litigation in beautiful Naples, Florida. And this is sponsored by EmotionTrac, which is a legal tech platform that we discussed, which helps litigators prepare for mediation and trials with our Insights platform. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Thanks, Jonathan. Really appreciate it. Have a great day. Have a great weekend.
You bet.